everybody, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this is part 2 of learning how to ride a motorcycle. In the first half, we actually discussed purchasing your first motorcycle and, kind of about how you do that and how you go about actually making that choice. In this part, we're going to go over actually the controls of the bike and how to get the bike going per se. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out here on the Harley, so I can show you the controls that it has, and we'll also look at this Triumph over here, which has a little bit different controls as well, and that's what I want to show you, that every motorcycle is a little bit different from each other. So when you chose your bike, you decided that it fit well, that it felt comfortable under you and everything like that. So now, learning how to ride it. So what you need to do is kind of think of each half of the motorcycle as a different aspect and part of how it runs. On the right side of the motorcycle, you have stop and go. Basically, this is where you stop and start the engine. This is where you make the engine go or make the motorcycle stop. On the right side, on your foot control, you have the rear brake over here on the pedal, and over here on the handlebar, you have the front brake lever. Then you also have the throttle as well, and like I showed you, this is the start and stop switch and also the starter button. Harleys have a hazard switch button over here and also a turn signal button over here. Not all motorcycles have this setup. Harley's a little bit different in that they have the separate turn signals. Most of them have a flip switch over here. I'll show you over on the Triumph here in a moment. Also, on the left side of the motorcycle, you have your power. So basically, what that means is that over here you control the power of the motorcycle and basically the speed of the engine to the road and everything like that. So you have the clutch, which disengages the power of the engine to the wheel, and then you release that back and it re-engages that power. Down here you have your shifter. Down for first, up a half for neutral, all the way up for second, third, fourth, fifth, then back down all the way to first. So that's how that works on a motorcycle, and I'll show you a little bit more on the transmission here in a moment. So basically, on the other side, you'll have your horn control. This one has a trip control computer, and then also your light control. This one has flash the pass on the bottom, and then also a bright switch to the top, and then of course the left and right. Now these are a little bit different in that the left and right on a Harley, when you hit left, if you're passing, you just tap again and it cancels it, or you hit left and you make a full turn, it has a sensor that once it's complete, it self-cancels. Not all motorcycles are like that. Harleys particularly seem to make that where you get a little bit spoiled, so you kind of forget if you're on a bike that doesn't self-cancel. Some Indians self-cancel. The ones I rode a few months back, I actually did that as well, even though they had the conventional toggle switch, but it wasn't as good as the Harley system. This one seems to shut off really well. So that's kind of the control aspect of the Harley. Another thing you need to learn is where your ignition is. All the ignitions are in different spots on every bike. A lot of Japanese bikes will be up here on the forward part of the handlebars for you. Some over here, here, or right in the middle. It'll control your ignition, your fork lock, and everything of that aspect. On Harley, you have two spots. You have the ignition down here on the right, and then you have your fork lock over here as well. That's kind of a safety mechanism in that you push your fork all the way to the left, put that in there, and you lock it, and that way it doesn't steer anymore. So if somebody tries to steal it, they're only going to go one direction unless they break something. So, kind of a theft deterrent there. And now, like I said, we'll go ahead and kind of look at the transmission here. All motorcycle transmissions are fairly universal in how they operate unless they're reversed. A reverse transmission means that if you pull up, you go to first gear, and then you click down subsequently for the higher gears. Those are usually on bikes that are set up for racing purposes and not on the street. So very rare are you going to encounter those on the actual street. Most of your motorcycles, it's going to be down for first, up a half click for neutral, or up full for second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth if you have one. So that's what you kind of do for the shifting and everything like that. Not all transmissions look the same. When you look at this one, it's just a single bar. We'll walk over here, and I'll show you also here that not all ignitions are in the same spot. As you can see, the Triumph's ignition is exactly under the seat and right behind the battery. The Triumph has a heel toe shifter. Now this heel toe shifter is a little bit different in that you can use it conventionally. You can go down for first, up half, and then click all the way up. Or you can go up here to go to first, and then click down for the subsequent gears after that. I actually prefer the heel toe shifter on that. So that's kind of the aspect of your transmission. They'll all be a little bit different. Another thing that you have to look at is your different controls. I'll sit on here real quick. And here's those different controls here. As you can see, here is your light switch again on the left side. This is your turn switch. Like I said, it's just a regular toggle switch. Right, cancel, left, cancel. Horn still under there. On this side, you still have your emergency stop cut switch and your starter button. So this is pretty much somewhat the same, little bit different layout. All motorcycles will have slightly different layouts from each other. Also, as you can see, the dashboard is more down on this console here, where I have my bright, my oil, my neutral, and then my turn signals. Up here on the speedometer, it's kind of like the Harley. It has my trip computer, my clock, and then it has my security system, then the check engine light, and the fuel light. Harley's the same way. It's all up in there. So just kind of look at that, but not all bikes have the same setup. Another thing about bikes as well is when you get ready to start one for the first time, know what type you have. You may have fuel injected, which is what this one and this one is. Fuel injected bikes are a little different. I'll go ahead and cut this one on here real fast. And listen here real quick. Okay, I don't know if you can hear the buzzing, but if you could hear that buzzing inside the tank, that's the fuel pump pumping up. Remember, do not start while that is pumping up. That will actually hurt the bike a little bit and also cause a little bit more power draw than it needs before it starts. So wait until that's done priming, then fire it up. If you have a bike that is carbureted, you're going to have a choke. Now, your chokes can be in different positions. A lot of Japanese bikes and a lot of other bikes have a choke lever right here, and you'd pull that forward and you'd start your bike on a cold day. Anything usually under 60 degrees, you'd want to choke it a little bit. They choke it less time for the warmer it is. If it's really cold, if it's like 30 degrees outside, choke that thing, start it up, let it sit on choke for about 15 seconds, and slowly start backing it off. If it stalls, go ahead and restart with the choke on again. Wait about 30 seconds and start backing it off, and then it should stay on that time. A lot of chokes are also down here, kind of similar to this. This one is fuel injected, like I said. However, it does have this little spot right here. This is a fast idle. So when you pull out on it, it's two-stage. You have really fast idle, and then you have kind of a half fast idle. Then you have full off. But that's how a choke works as well. You'll pull that out on the bike, start it, and then push it back in when it starts to warm up. So that's kind of the aspect of getting ready to start the motorcycle and things like that. Other things that you want to do before you actually get to going and starting your motorcycle for the first time is learning to check parts of the motorcycle. You want to check the fluids of the bike. Like on the Harley, you have a dipstick here in the oil tank, and then on a lot of other bikes like this Triumph here, you're going to have a little sight glass that's down here, as you can see here, and that's got your oil in it. On a Harley, you warm it up for about 5 minutes or wait for the fast idle to shut down on its own, because it's computerized, unlike this bike, which is manual. You let that one heat up, shut it down, put it back on its stand, open it up, look at the dipstick, and then you're good to go. Make sure the fluid's good. This one, you just have to make sure it's level, and I'm not going to really do that because I'm on a hill and I can't really pull it down. And you'll see right here, there's these two little pips on the bike here, and that will show you where that oil level should be. So you just kind of look at that when it's at a level surface, make sure that that is fine. Look at your brakes as well. You'll see that it has an upper and lower. Want to make sure your fluid is between there. You also have sight glasses here, upper lower as well. And the Harley is the same thing. You have upper lower marks, and you also have it down here as well. It's on the back side of this one. So you want to check your fluids, make sure they're all good. If you have a liquid cooled bike, you want to make sure that your radiator is full and at capacity. So look at your reservoir, make sure it's between the marks that it wants. So that's kind of the aspects of getting ready to ride your bike for the first time. In our next video, we're going to actually start riding the bike, and I'm going to show you some tips on how to do that, how to ride, and where to start riding at. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I like to answer back, and if you got any questions, I definitely will try to get those answered in a video or in the comments as well. Keep the shiny side up, folks.